Hello, world, and everyone out in the existence of this Lion's Gate that we have just gone through in the last few, couple weeks, actually. Welcome in. It's Poppy's My Project podcast. Hooray! We're all here. Matthew's back from camping. He went camping last week. I am back in my body and in my sanity. I don't know why this slide is acting crazy, but I'm just getting used to doing the new, actually making a little movie, but that's fine. This is a continuation of last week where we talked about Leo, and now it's like this Leo Aquarius is now this relation to these most important aspects of our personality in life. That's what we were discovering and what the 8th gate was all about. And we're now looking at that Leo rules the astral permanent atom, like the lab of lifetimes and experiences, and how it multiplies in our astral bodies that we have. We have several that are outside of our normal vehicle that we travel in. So this is what relates to our intense feelings, our intense experiences, and our depth of emotions that all of these elementals come in, and they are these actors that can draw upon the center stage. So that's why passion and drama is a part of the Lion's Gate, and the Leonine actor dances, sings, and cha-cha-chas these emotions, and they're pretty generous or tyrannical, depending on where your soul is at. So advanced Leo, it preserves individuality. It has its own school of its universal consciousness of Aquarius. That's the higher realm of it. Basically, all the lower realms underneath the horizon are the lower frequencies sometimes, and then you have your opposites that will show the higher frequency of self and identity. So of your individual, we're constantly juggling, and the awakened universal sight and gnosis. So Aquarius rules this entire physical permanent atom, which is pretty awesome, and this repository of lifetimes of experiences and all these different various sizes and colors and smells of human physical bodies. Yes, we smell. And so there's these permanent atoms that hold these memories. That's what this Aquarius does, of these patterns. And Miriah and I were talking earlier about patterns and what we see, and to determine the different personalities, threefold, because the sun, it literally has 3 layers before our actual soul comes out of it. So there's all of these layers in front that we're actually not able to see or even put out into the world. So this vehicle is like a manufactured home, which is where the soul is incarnating. So Aquarius is related to the so-called 7th creative hierarchy, and that group is a group of devas that live of that makeup of that physical form, which is this permanent atom. So then you got Neptune that gives some clues to the effectiveness upon the physical plane of Aquarius in its 7th ray influence through Uranus, which we talked about last week. So thank you all for coming in. We're going to go into the astrology today. There's some interesting aspects in geometry that are at play, and I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks about it, because you'll see that there's an inversion, and I didn't really have time to go into too much of the actual what is happening in the world, except for all I know is that Iran's still fuck you, trumpet. And, so whatever, that's cool, but we're going to look at the history, and then we're going to go back into the Lion's Gate, and what does that mean? What is this that's coming up? So welcome in, everyone. Hey Matthew, hey Miriah, what's going on, you guys?
Hey, happy hump
How's
day. Woohoo! It's Wednesday. And I don't know about you guys, but Leo season seems to be coming on pretty strong in this neck of the woods. It's like everybody is out there doing something. Like it's like the heat of summer. And we talk about this all the time. Dog days of summer, here it comes. So I guess here we go into the Lions Gate, into the portal. I'm curious about the information you found about the reincarnation process and such. I mean, I'm sure the Leos are happy to hear that they are the gatekeepers of the incarnation. I'm sure my moon in Leo is happy about that too. It's like, did I pick this
Yeah, we went
incarnation?
over that all
Maybe.
last week.
Sure.
Like
but
a
I'm sure
lot
we'll
of
touch on
that.
it more too. Yeah. But yeah, happy Leo season. Good stuff.
Happy Leo season.
It is raining finally. We finally got some rain in Colorado, and it's Mushroom Festival. So we are making the mycelium in the ground happy. So I'm busy with that. I don't know why the background of our Lionsgate portal is gone. It looks good on my end, but we'll go with it.
Wrong coordinate.
It's just the video that I did. I didn't extend it long enough because I did it the last minute. I was like, oh shit, I gotta do this. And then I forgot.
Oh, good. So today is kind of the end of this like Lionsgate portal. It began July 26th, and this correlates with what the astrology is going with, of course. And so today we had a solar eclipse. Most of like Spain, Iceland, maybe parts of Egypt saw it. Even parts of like North Dakota, Wisconsin might have gotten a shadow of it.
Scandinavia, even parts of Alaska, Canada too.
Yeah, so up north, yeah, on a higher latitude. And so what this is really interesting though is because of when it happened, even the solar eclipse, if it's in totality, it really affects that area and everybody gets to see it, but it like really stamps something. And what's cool is it shows that these these things out there exist, and some of them are round. And so today is kind of the last day of this Lionsgate portal. I mean, give or take on 8/8 Lionsgate, that's kind of the climax because of the numerology. And that has to do with the 8, the infinity. And so what infinity kind of is this geometry keeping us in an infinite like hole within a hole. You can go turtles all the way up, turtles all the way down, and we can't get out of it. You can just keep swimming through another dimension, another, you can look in someone's eye and get into another universe that goes into something else, that goes into something else, and vice versa. So this is I think has correlation to with reincarnation and keeping us in that infinity loop. And of course, we'll get into it more, but it's finally raining and I'm excited about that. And yeah.
Awesome.
About time.
It's not raining here at all. I wish it was, but it is not.
Well, we made it rain.
It's not too bad.
Maybe need to do a rain dance. All the volunteers for the Mushroom Festival, we, did all the snapping.
I'm used to the Pacific Northwest not being rainy, so it's not a big deal. Like during the summer months, that's usually just depends on where you are. Down south, in the middle, you guys have a different kind of climate. But where you guys actually have in August, where what are they called? The storms,
monsoon.
What are they called in Mexico?
Monsoon season. Monsoon cycle.
Thank you.
Well, like a swell comes in.
I've been on that long enough, I can't remember what the damn thing's called anymore.
Yeah, it's like a swell. So it'll come in every day about the same time, and then it'll leave. But it's great.
Why don't we go ahead and go to the slide with the zodiac on it so we can check it out, see what we got going on here.
Look at that.
There it is. You guys remember the slides that I did a couple weeks ago on the Messianic symbol of the dollar bill. There you go. There it is. The inverted pentagram. And you have Aquarius on the left side, and you have Leo on the right side. So I was like, oh my God, when I saw this morning, I was like, this is not a coincidence. This is that, nailing down consciousness into the base consciousness into what? Uranus.
Good question.
It's like the point, the main point is Uranus in this picture of these aspects of this. So this is like when you think of like the 12th house, that's the collective karma, right? Where it underlies all this war, and Pluto's there right now in this chart. So I was like, oh, okay, well, what's going to happen? So the darker side of Pluto, it's you got people that are territorial. You got dogs pissing on, barbecues, and got imperialism. I mean, it's summer, right? So we got Miriah just went to a barbecue. You got imperialism, where hey, I'm better than you are. Abuse of power, presidents, thinking that, and CEOs and corporations, they do all this intimidation. Yeah, all this aggression, racism. I mean, Jesus Christ, when did racism get so big? Like, I went through Telegram the other day, and I'm in one of these groups, and it's just, they're like, nigger this, nigger that. And I was like, wow, it's just so crazy. Like, why are we here? And then I have a friend that's from Brazil, and he's like, why do they hate white people so much? And he's like Brazilian. He's got milk chocolate skin. And I was just like, why do you care about white people?
It comes back around, right? We were at one point, or when I say we, the royal we, but you see this where that's who's calling people racist, those that are being attacked or those that don't want to hear it. So the wheel keeps turning, and like the power gets like kind of it's skewed, right?
Interesting. Well, that's you could thank Pluto for that. It's the shadow side, where humanity has a lot of resentment right now, and are we rising in that foreshadowing? I don't know.
Maddie, I have a reverb. I apologize. So I don't know why that is. Let me check. I'll let you talk.
So yeah, the shadow side is definitely coming up, and this, we had what Pluto was discovered in 1930, and this was the death bloom of the golden ratio of World War II when this happened. So this is what, like, after it was discovered, or after the war happened, Pluto was like, surprise, you didn't see me, haha, here I am, da, 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 da. And then, like, literally there was a solar eclipse that happened. It was actually a new moon in Leo eclipse, and they have the most effects like 3 months leading up to the eclipse, and if they aspect a planet you can see in this one here, if you zoom in, I know she probably can't do it, but you can zoom on your phone or your computer, you can see that it is aspecting Neptune in Aries. Yes? You see that? So that means it's going to be carrying on for like another 6 months after this eclipse happens. So we're looking at the light of consciousness was blotted out, during this war in 1914. where all of a sudden, World War started, and like literally 3 weeks after, and after this, I don't know if it wasn't the last solar eclipse in Leo, but it was an effect of it, and a war came out. And I was like, well, shit, you got Pluto there, you got Jupiter there, that's going to expand, this irritation of communication, because communication is in there. And then you got Venus, which is what? Basically the Earth. It's Gaia, it's all of us and our personalities jumbled into one. And then you have, like I said, Jupiter and Mercury in the mix that are conjuncting. It's a little bit wider there, but you got literally most of the planets in this are 3, 4, 5 exact degrees. Okay.
We can definitely expect some babies being sacrificed today.
Oh, so yeah, definitely, whether it be, who knows what kind of form or whatever, but there's definitely going to be a lot of activity based on this chart today. And so you're looking at where the light of consciousness is like literally being blotted out. These instinctual forces are, Leo moon, this overwhelming caring of the mother, that we talked about, right? The care bears, and this loving side of like Cancer, which is before Leo, is now being urged on by the fanatical Pluto here. And it can, if it can overcome the benevolent heart that is centered in these energies of Leo, because right now we're kind of looking at some dictatorship, if you ask me, in this chart. And this is like the archetypes that really lay beneath, when the earth starts to shake, it starts to loosen up the legacy of like these unresolved rages of Hades moon, right? This is a Hades moon. Remember we did like a couple months ago, I talked about the Hades moon. This is a Hades moon. Holy shit. So millions of men were all fired up back in the day, like during World War II or World War I, excuse me, not World War II. I apologize if I said World War II. And the idea of like war, believing that they could be called upon to fight the forces of evil in Britain, and they flooded the recruiting stations in 1914. And over 3 million volunteers straight up were like, rah, 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 voluntary to sacrifice themselves, excited as an ideal, which, helped America to war. I say it as like the setup as a cognition of the East, and then of the world in 1919, the short version of the better world, right? They were like, we're going to make a better world. Woo-hoo! And, the United States ambassador in London wrote to the president in October 1914 saying, it is not the same world as it was last July. So Pluto had done its work, and it began this resonance a resonance that had ended. So a resonance, excuse me, I'm not saying that word right. The world actually from that point on would never also not return. And now we're back to that collective aspect over 110 years later, 112 years later. And so this is, where man descended into the underworld, and this is what's happening, and women were left to grieve. And this is the Demeter archetype, that destroyed the world and made it desolate. The position of women too, that would never ever be the same again. She became free, she ended up like in the next war. The next war, was building all the machinery for the tanks and the airplanes, and were the backbone of the war, and keeping America running. And then, we have like, eventually, plutonian positions that attacked, this brutal, bloody, generally unsuccessfully, but over 1 million British men lost their lives, and the Cancerian family. So, Britain was interesting. They got their asses kicked. And then World War II, ended up happening September 1st, 1939 after that. So, yeah, so it just changed everything. We have this, because when that war started, the solar eclipse started October 12th. I shit you not. World War II. Okay? September 3rd, 1939.
It was all culminating, like right coming out of Leo season.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
100%.
eclipse is eclipsing us into that. So is this still me? Like, or maybe if I talk, maybe we just have to mute each.
Oh, no, you said I was fine earlier.
Does it sound better? Does it sound better? I wonder why that. Okay. I apologize. Okay. I didn't want to sound like
I can't hear it.
So we just had that basket, right? So these outer planets are shifting. They shifted out of a basket and they held that for a while. July was kind of crazy. And what that was it was like giving us this launch, creating a basket. And we're going to talk more and more about baskets. We've talked a lot about baskets. You could say a cradle. And this alignment, they were all at 4 degrees. So it was like a 4, 4, 4, 4, right? And you can start looking at numerology. You can start looking at the frequencies, but it held this basket. And well, at the same time, we had like Jupiter, Cazimi with the sun with part of that, and launching us into the nodes, into new signs, Leo and Aquarius. And so we have, as a society, as a whole planet, we're going into the age of Aquarius with our north node. And then we have our south node with the sun, Jupiter's there, right? And then we just had an eclipse there. So it's kind of like more and more and more tweaking this energy more and more forward. So if you're not like catching up in the like revolving door, you're going to get kind of left behind right now. And so that basket now became, the goat head, the Baphomet, the upside down star, Stargate. There's a lot of ways you can look at this particular shape, and there's an X in it, but it's like a rectangle. It's not a true square.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
What do you guys think if two people's charts make this shape? If you overlap them?
So now we're playing Twister.
What do you mean? I'm not quite sure if I understand what your question is.
Like if you have...
Are you asking for a friend?
Two charts that are basically one half of the pentagram, and you put them together and they create a pentagram. What do you think that means?
Okay. I mean, depends on what side, if it's up or down.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I definitely would say it would be a controlling, a controlling base consciousness if it's upside down. If it was upright,
a karmic
it would be definitely like, uplifting and doable. You'd be able to like free yourself hopefully through that. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a coincidence. As part of that, but that's a good question.
Yeah, and then of course people born today.
People are saying my mic is all wobbly. Do I sound warped out to the audience or something? Like, I don't know.
Something sounds funny.
We mic checked before we started, and everyone said I sounded fine. So I'm like, what the fuck? Anyways, yeah. So no, this is an interesting, and then you got it inside of an envelope. You can see that, and then there's a trine on top of that. So I outlined the entire thing. So you're looking at a containment or a postal, a postage to a letter of like, anchoring the mental hierarchy, of masonry into base consciousness, which is like the lower aspect of it. So when you think about that, and Uranus is right there in what? Gemini, you guys. And this is what happens in Gemini when Uranus is there. You guys remember? War.
Yeah, the
Okay.
technology changes, the
Yeah.
currency changes, there's a lot of migration, upheaval, and definitely war, dictatorship, and loss of culture.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of going on here because we with that Leo, because Leo, the eclipse, you have me, myself, right? And then you also, which is also sovereignty, can be, so it could be going in the right way, but with this, until it flips back up, but I don't know if this is going to really flip back up because the moon, doesn't really like to, I mean, this was anchored. You can see it at the time of when it was actually happening, UTC time. And so, you have Leo wants recognition. It says it's the king. So you're having like, what? Like Iran and the United States are like, I'm the king. No, I'm the king. No, I am. They're just fighting. This Aquarius polarity, the collective systems, the networks and societies, the future. Where's it going to go as humanity as a whole? So Pluto, is on that 3rd degree of Aquarius, which is controlling the narrative. It really is, because of that 12th house. It's the consciousness and the whole entire will. And then you got Mercury, it's just like, it's all this information and interpretation. Because, man, I was noticing, like, people are, like, especially through text. I mean, it just seems like it's worse right now, especially because of this Uranus thing. But I was texting somebody or, trying to get to know them, a little bit. And they're literally like telling me what I am. And I'm just like, oh my God, am I really having to do this again with somebody? Like, why don't you ask me questions? I don't really get why you're assuming all this crap. And then they turn around and say, I'm assuming, and I completely wasn't. It was just all this projection. It was such an interesting like conversation. So you have this like narrative and with communication, and then, with this power of coercion, right? People want to like, to coerce you into exposing like yourself, because they wanted me to like, oh, you're being so mysterious and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you just don't speak my language. I can hear what you're saying. They're like, oh, this, because also Pluto's all this hidden material and psychological intensity. So with that Jupiter and, conjuncting Mercury, it's going to be more psychologically like manipulative. Like, who's controlling the narrative here? Because you got Mercury, which is information, and Uranus.
Leo. Leo is definitely a look at who is in control and what are you seeing versus what are you actually getting, or like what's the narrative compared to what's really going on behind the scenes. And so there's so much of that already in society, and it's just like amplified right now. What are the whistleblowers trying to let out with these big stories that are coming up, trying to distract us? Because like whatever's in the news is usually trying to distract us from whatever else is actually going on. This is a great time to like look at that, and it's highlighted. So whatever's going on in the undercurrents right now is really what's happening. And, the propaganda or like the mainstream stuff is really just a show. Like, so look in your local areas at what's going on. Here in Colorado, there's a lot of like development that's just been passed that a lot of people are upset about. And like, none of this stuff made the news. It was local groups just getting out there and talking and saying, hey, like, I just realized that, the legislator are about to put these through or the county commissioners are putting this through to have this development happen and nobody's talking about it. Like, that's the kind of stuff that people are missing out on because it's slipping through the cracks. It's paper clipped because people are paying attention to what's going on overseas in things that hardly have to do with what's going on over here. And so there's a lot of deception that comes into this time frame too, and Uranus is always playing a role in that as well. We've talked a lot about that, so we're going to see those influences all the way around the board here.
Somebody from the chat asked why Black Lilith was hanging out in Sagittarius. Well, she is opposing Mars right as well. So she's coming up to be like, oh, we got done with this. And at the same time, as we're going through all this transition, she's here to protect us and to show us the right way to bring that dark feminine energy to the surface in a way that matters. Like, this is when we can get angry at what's happening to our planet, to each other, to our children, to our elderly, to our plants, to our planet, to our atmosphere, to our food, to our soil. Look, like, so I think this is for being that strong, fiery Sagittarius, holding it down, while this other masculine fire energy is playing out in the South Node now with an eclipse. So she's kind of anchoring some very, very potent energy. And so I'm glad you asked that. But yeah, so there's all these, like, all the players are here. Like, Venus herself is in this pentagram, right? And
she's opposing Uranus right now.
Yeah, Uranus. So this is, and Nova already explained this, but these are like the anchors, and this is part of the wheel and the zodiac wheel. And we're gonna get into like even the wheel of the tarot, why these players matter when they show up. We're looking at the patterns. Last time they showed up like this, what happened? Because this is the sky clock, and this is what our reference is. We're in it. And
we don't even know the last time that this actually happened. It may not have actually ever happened. I mean, if it did, it was like a long time ago.
Same with the basket. So we can find
very long time
similar. And so this is a brand new time for humanity. This is what all the books we've been reading is about. They're kind of pointing to this time. And I know maybe humanity always says that, but again, it comes in cycles. And it seems to be that we just start figure it out as a whole right before it's over.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is like a whole. It could be a technological revelation, which means I mean, I know that people are starting to love Flock by sharing information about what not to do. Don't point any kind of green laser at them, because that's horrible. Can't do that kind of stuff. So this political revelation that we're going through, it could be like a scientific discovery. Communication breakdowns for sure are already happening. We already know that there's weapons that are being used, like what they did in Argentina. Or was it Venezuela? Excuse me, Venezuela, where they basically brought in these energy weapons, and it was over. like in it was only like 20 soldiers, and it just like fried everybody, because they couldn't handle the frequencies. And so we were talking about like new communications technologies, hacking systems. That means that systems could be failing, which could be interesting. Depending on what system it is. There can be any kind of viral piece of information, or a sudden change of public opinion based on this Uranus, because Jupiter's out there like really just like blah, and Pluto's like, I'm gonna kill it and transform it and like make it into something completely different. and then you have Neptune, which is, entering that Aries, which it has for like the last couple of months. And it's like, what are we all going to do about it? Because that's what everybody's doing. It's just like, because it's so hidden in the self. We're just like, we haven't experienced it yet, because the consciousness is like, well, do we remember this back in Atlantis, you guys? Did we? How about Lemuria? Did we do this? I don't know. Like, I remember that there was like sound for sure, and it was able to like move rock and make it into into buildings, and without with like horns and all this stuff. But shit, I don't know, man. We got these lasers that are coming out of the sky that are frying like looks like Spokane, Washington was like the last one. But why they would do Spokane, I have no idea. I mean, that's like where all the Ku Klux Klan are. Well, at least they were back in the day. I don't know if they still are, but it was that same thing where it was like no trees were burned, but everything else was melted. And what glass or metal doesn't really melt like these things do. I think the glass is the problem, and so it was definitely like a flame that was not like natural. So,
it was microwave.
What kind of
That's what happened.
Yeah, it's a microwave.
If you microwave stuff like that, it'll roast from the metal. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that just happened in Spokane, Washington, just recently. We have a lot of fires that are going on around here. You guys gotta, if you have like a roof, you should be painting it blue. Just saying, just paint it blue. Paint it blue. Don't ask questions. Just paint it blue.
What was the reasoning of that? I had seen like a few connections, but I wasn't sure if it was just like lore or if it had something to do with the microwaves themselves.
Yeah, supposedly they do not are not attracted to the blue light spectrum.
Yeah,
because it finds something to bounce off of or go through, because it's an energy that needs to go somewhere.
Yeah, because I remember that about all the Maui fires. It was like the blue roof houses didn't catch.
Yeah, it's like that with any fire that this has been happening to. And they said to paint your rooftops blue, which is a good idea. So yeah, you guys, we got this combination of like this vision, this collective transformation, and action all happen at once. I mean, we got like, this is a revolutionary technological, political, ideological, economic, spiritual, or cultural revolution. Holy fuck. Leo, it is basically leadership. What are we identifying within that leadership? Are we deciding that we don't want to be leaders, or are we just still going to be like, oh, let's just let these, fairies over here that are like, behind a veil, like the Wizard of Oz, keep controlling everything, and like, oh, here we go. Like, let's, we're just going to keep our pride instead and be, racist and, and say we're sovereign because, I am free to express myself dramatically. Okay, well, so what's going to happen, with this eclipse? It's, we look at this emotionally detached sign, it's saying basically, who am I? Who are we? Who gets to lead? Who's going to speak? And whose version of the future wins? And what's interesting, if Venus is involved with this, with that Virgo, because Venus, she's hanging out in there. She's just like, well, you guys, are you going to rape me like you always do? I love you. Well, but it's conditional. So it's opposing Neptune right now in Aries.
She's in Libra
and
right now. She was in Virgo. Yeah, she was in Virgo with the South Node, and then they like.
Okay, well,
yeah,
5 degrees.
Yeah, but either way, it's goddess.
Same. It's basically, it's Libra is like the atom. It is when the atom split. And it was like, ta-da! There's 2 of us now. We have to have relationships with ourselves. Hooray! So looking at that, you have where Neptune in Aries is saying that I believe in this vision. So there's tension between this idealism and of relationship and how to get along, and this ideal, like, well, I'm an individual, and then you have lower Leo, which is like, I'm important, and then you have the higher one, which is like, I know who I am. And then you have lower, because you got to look at Aquarius too, opposing that, which is saying, well, I control the collective, because that's kind of what's happening right now. Not kind of, it's what's happening. And then the higher octave, which is I serve the collective. I don't even like that though. I don't like the word serve. I
Sounds too much like serf. Like you're a serf.
Yeah, I'm like, well, what's another word? But I
gift. I gift you.
Because we don't want to serve each other, but we want to support. I support the collective. Yeah, because once we start serving, then you're actually more of you're still in that slave system. It seems like to me that's like that Christian. You go out and serve people when you're
serving. You're not even making minimum wage.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of saying. I was like, we all. I mean, the collective kind of needs to like be interdependent with each other instead of like depending on the servants, like the Game of Thrones, shows and books and all that stuff. So anyways, that's what I see. Like, I was just like, holy crap, we're going to see this, because that envelope, that is making it super fucking laxed. Really laxed. Even though it's contained laxed, it's like, it's not really going to teach anybody that much. They might have to repeat
it's a lot of hard
that's why I'm
too. So it's a big old standoff if you look at it.
Well, there's more going on. I mean, there's literally, when you look at this, there's because the envelope has 2 sextiles. You have 4 sextiles going on and 2 trines. Okay, that's a lot of easy peasy. Like, I don't really want to do the work, so I'm just gonna write a letter and tell them I'm not coming to work. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I just kind of see it's like, trines and sextiles, all that stuff is just super easy, and you don't really learn anything from it. You just kind of, that's what we've been, is comfortable, right? It's a comfortable letter. It's like a Dear John letter, but it's a comfortable one. But anyways.
So like taking the easy way out is what you're saying? That's what it feels like?
Yeah, taking the easy way out is just staying in base consciousness, is what I'm seeing. And because it's too hard to do it any other way.
Well, it's funny because that's what humans love to do until they can't anymore, and then they're forced to do what they have to do, until they get backed into a corner. Humans will always take the easy way out until they can't.
Yeah. Anyways. Well, and this actually comes into the Phoenix, going back to the Phoenix, what is it? The Phoenix, oh my God, I'm totally drawing a blank right now.
Well, we're the Sleeping Phoenix.
Thank you. Yes, I had it in my mind. I wrote it down. The Sleeping Phoenix, it's these cycles that are passing. Because the Phoenix, even though it's more Scorpio, it's still that flame and that fire. And the cycles that pass through the sun of Leo, when you look at theosophy and the ancient calculations, they say that approximately 18 million years ago, That's when the spark of mind between the brain and the mind finally took, like, so that, you know, we could actually start, you know, placing humans like where we became conscious, like of ourselves, and became individuals. So this is a period of like 18,618,850 years ago that represents the first definitely human race where sexual separation had occurred. I was talking about it last week, and then I found the actual numbers for it. And the manistic impulse, right? The man is the Manu, is the mane, right? The mane of the lion. That the spark of mind comes from Leo. So that impulse from like 21,688,414 years had finally registered the first mind-body alignment. That's a long time ago, and we've been quite a bit. We've been going through these motions. Did you have something to say, Miriah?
Oh, I guess I was just kind of dancing. Oh, the rebirth. I'm so sorry. When you said that though, so when we go from when the universe started creating itself, there was a line, right? You go from a dot and then you create a line. And then the first shape was an X. So when the creator of the universe first formed the cosmos, he shaped its substance in the form of the letter X. So this is what Plato at least described in his dialogue of Timaeus. So that would make sense because if you go from a line to make another shape, you can make another line, and now you're kind of creating a shape, but now you're creating a center point and these four directions. And this is what Nova's talking about, these anchors, where these specific zodiac signs are those first points now at the end of that X. You may continue. I will mute my.
Yeah, you see the X so much, you know, and since we've been talking about it a lot, you know, I've noticed it more and more in symbolism. There's so much of it everywhere. And then, you know, it's funny. I got like one of those coincidences because I was thinking about it, and then I like ran across a pirate flag with the X on it right as I was thinking about it at the same time, like driving by, and I was like, yeah, of course, you know. And we're always getting contrails with X's, and X marks the spot. And it's the dimensional shift. It's the singularity point. It's where the convergence meets, where the portal starts and ends. The boreality ends at the X and starts at the X. So it's a powerful spot. Kind of ties into our 888 portal. I'm sure you guys touched on that last week, but you know, it does line up with the X, both physically and mentally as well. It's everywhere.
Sorry, guys. Are you hearing a reverb from me when my mute is unmuted? Matthew is what I'm trying to say. Are you hearing a reverb, or is it just Miriah?
I heard a couple reverbs off and on, but it's been sporadic.
I don't understand because the reverb wasn't there before, so I don't freaking get it. This was happening like on our conversation the other day with number 6. It was just with Miriah, like I was only having this reverb. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, that sounds better. It's clear.
I think Miriah resolved her echoing.
Yeah, but Nova, you just sounded a lot clearer. You might have fixed it. But now if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Yeah, because my headphones unplugged. It's like I can't fucking get a break. Jesus.
It's that Lionsgate.
It's
no,
Eclipse,
it's the
man.
fucking like. It's. I don't know.
Technology never likes to work on the Eclipse. I had so
it's
many
not been
troubles
working
on
for
my
me for
meeting
several
earlier.
fucking months, and I'm getting over it. I'm so fucking over it. Like, it was working fine like several months ago, and now it's just like, no, and I can't fucking figure it out, and I never have enough time to figure it out, like, because we're like only like for 5 minutes, like at the beginning, I'm like, hey, how's it sound? And you're like, it sounds great. And now it sounds like shit. I'm like, what do you mean? Nothing changed.
But now it
It's
sounds
probably
good.
shitty
Anyway.
wire, you know, because
Yeah, because I
sometimes
put my
I've noticed
fucking
like
headphones
those
on,
old
and I don't want my
wires,
headphones on.
you know, it's like right the connection point where it goes into the computer. Sometimes that frays out, or like that little area, if it bends too hard one time, sometimes it has to be in like a perfect position for it to sound good, or like charge and stuff like that. I know a microphone doesn't charge, but I notice that happens on my phone sometimes too. So maybe it was just in the perfect position at the beginning.
We're having a little tech meeting here on air, but
Staff meeting.
you're listening to Poppy's Field Project, everybody. We're talking about this eclipse and just really like what this astrology that is very rare, that just keeps making the most beautiful shapes, and what it might mean for humanity as a whole, as we've been following all the patterns of astrology, looking at what has happened in the past. And we're on the verge of maybe like something that looks like World War I, World War II. So anyway, I'll let Nova continue. And yeah, you sound a lot better. And thanks everybody for listening.
Anyways, I'm a little ticked off now, but whatever. I'm not happy about this. I would like to get this solved, so maybe next week if we can get like at least 10 fucking 15 minutes before, so I can finally get this resolved, because it's every single time. I would appreciate, I need to ask Steve to like just start at 15 minutes early. Okay, so anyways, so the great approach of hierarchy, of like this individual actual like sexual separation, like, which was based on Shambhala. If you guys are familiar with Shambhala, it's like this, you know, frequency place that some people that believe it's actually a place here on Earth that you just can't see it. And that separation was that 18,618,850 years ago, which with humanity registered its, you know, this pulse occurred a few million years before, which was that 21,688,000. So like today's leaders, you know, they feel that their power is threatened by this collective movement and of Aquarius and Pluto. And it may resort to this aggression, you know, when you're looking at this aggression, it's because we split from the, you know, in the spark of mine happened. That's why I brought up these, you know, how long ago it happened and how long it has taken us to get to this point now, and how this aggressive posturing or preemptive strikes to maintain dominance are constantly happening. You know, in this sleeping phoenix cycle. So I thought that was really interesting that, you know, the phoenix came up, because we talked about the sleeping phoenix cycle. And then you have another cycle, which is called Neros, and it's every 12,060. So, in 12,060 AD, it's actually when it came into play, where the cycle of like 1,260 years, like, were the 3.5 years or 1,260 days were taken from the 11th and the 12th chapters of the Revelation. Okay. And these numbers are important because 9/11 is coming up. 9/11. Remember these numbers: 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm not going to share it right now, but it's going to come up during November or during September 11th. I'm going to come back to this. So there's the cycle of this Neros, where this period is known as the Phoenix cycle, where the theory of like the Messiah starts to begin and it restarts over. It recreates itself. There's this guy named Lundy who says that Herodotus was in Egypt. We talked about Egypt, the Egyptian calendar last week, and
he was told that the phoenix was a bird of great rarity, and that it only comes like every 500 years, and then it dies, and then another rises from the ashes. And it's like an eagle of like this, of a red golden dragon, plume, right, in a way. And so, because it's what a dragon also, it can withstand the fire. So, but then you have Pliny, who says that it surpasses all of the birds, the phoenix. But I do not know if it would be the fable that there is only one in the world, and that seldom seen. It is sacred to the sun, lives 660 years when it dies, and it has its aromatic nest of frankincense of myrrh, which produces a worm out of the young phoenix, comes out and arises and comes back and carries the nest to the altar of the temple of Heliopolis in Egypt. So this is like this. There's this revolution here where it starts to correspond between human life and this bird that keeps coming back up, and the shape of its wings. We were talking about the woman before, and the inversion, and this inversion sign of the pentagram. Well, the bird reminds me of a W or an M, and the M is the inversion, and the W is the truth. It's the feminine. It's the arrow. When you look at a M, I'll show you. I have a slide that's not on this one, but look at the point of the W in this bird. It's pointing upward. It's not pointing down like base consciousness, like that pentagram, inverted pentagram was. So it really brought up this whole idea of that, the eagle and phoenix. This is why it makes sense. It's this W that has been inverted, the woman, right? The feminine. And so this is where it starts to change, and the stars start to return to their first place, actually. So that this is 1260 years. They return back to their original state, where they were. Okay. So this is where the Christ consciousness started flooding in, into Earth from Sirius, and these old codes that reinforced the Egyptian footsteps, of this upward direction, right? The W, or the moon. You could look at it as, the bird also could look like, a moon shape, which is also the feminine. So when Osiris came to Earth at the beginning of the age of Taurus in 4320 BC, it was later dealt that a big blow, to the Syrian codes cut off like in September, when the phallus of Osiris occurred. And this is a secret. Osiris is considered to be a green god, as Dionysus, which is why I put the green man here. The god of, which is also the god of wine. And Osiris lost his phallus because Egypt had codes called the Blue Nile. And this dismemberment was a necessity. I know it's like, okay, so remember we've been talking about castration for a while, you guys, and how the masculine has been castrated. Well, it's a necessity for culmination of the next phase of human evolution to express itself from the blue race of the second dimension elemental kingdom. Okay, so it's that's why I put the blue man here with and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my god, Canva actually has the Trivium man in blue. I was like, this is weird. So I mean, I guess it's not really weird, because blue is also inverted with masculine energy instead of it should be red. So humanity must lose its path on the face of the elemental kingdom right now, which is green. For the trees and the plants can be honored by this expression of green. We need to go back to like nature, basically. And so the change of our own consciousness as humans, the Blue Nile was the beginning of how they began to access their stellar codes. Why? Because the blue is feminine. Okay, it's the feminine, 100%. And so in ancient times, the stellar codes were reserved just for the pharaoh, and they held on to this field by themselves for quite some time because human consciousness was not ready for it. That Blue Nile. So it's not just this story of a river flowing. It's not just a seasonal thing. It was because now that we are actually entering into the age of, or we are entered into the age of Aquarius, every human being on the planet has access to the stars now. Every single one of us. So this was necessary to be castrated, to cut ourselves off so far that it would, bring us back home. And it's this cycle, this narrow cycle. And so this is why we had the whole entire separation of sexes, where we were hermaphrodites first, and then we split. And here we are, like trying to figure it out from there. And this is the great approach of the hierarchy, where the beginning of individualization was culminated, with that sexual separation and with that Shambhala, the founding of Shambhala. So it's literally taken us 20 to 18 million years to get to this point, 21 million. It's insane. The first spark of mind. That's the theory based on, theosophy and theosophist. They've gone back and actually calculated, and they totally disagree with most of the normal dates that have been set, and I believe it. Ready for the next slide, unless you guys want to comment. So we talked about Yaldabaoth. That's who this is, Yaldabaoth, last week. But he's got a serpent's tail, and that would be Sophia. She's like the counterpart. She's what created Yaldabaoth. And so the serpent is a positive symbol of the Kundalini wisdom, and then in the Naga kings. And there's a guy named Sanat Kumara, we could call him a guy, but he's more just like a higher being. He considered to be the serpent also, not just Sophia. So he's sometimes associated with where Moses lifted the wilderness, which is literally the Christ symbol, which is the dove, also the mother, the care. And in the context of the lion head serpent, it represents this will and this, and this wisdom together. Remember, I was talking about this last week, where her counterpart is the will, which was the Latos, Sophia. So you can look at this too, that Sanat Kumara embodies this and helps guide humanity. And Yaldabaoth is the blind lion head serpent, who is the trap of, the web that we're in, of like constantly coming back and reincarnating in this dream. So Sanat Kumara is here to to shake up the lion, and who masters the serpent and forces to lift it up, into its original state, back into the galactic core. So the overseer role, the function of Sanat Kumara holds this planetary plan in his mind, where over the first 3 initiations, which is first you'd have guidance. Unlike Yaldabaoth, who deceives, Sanat Kumara reveals. And how much have we had revealed just in the last 6 years? Like an overwhelming amount of information. I mean, we could spend several lifetimes just learning what just came out. I mean, there's been people that have been doing this since the 90s, and it's awesome that they were able to like have those videos saved somewhere for us to find them, like literally 6 years ago. And then everybody just started like boom, 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 spreading it like wildfire. So
Yeah, thank
what he
goodness
does,
holograms around. I mean, a lot of that stuff was like on YouTube and then got deleted and then got circulated again. It's been kind of a crazy content ride. Like even since we started the podcast, like how much information has been deleted and then re-uploaded and then reshared and then put in other group threads, and it's interesting.
yeah, definitely grateful for it, because none of it like disappeared. It was able, because people are like now talking about the stuff we were talking about 6 years ago or 5 years ago, however long ago it was. And we're like, that's old news. But you were here to like help them, get to that. So this is where he sends the Lords of the Flame down, the true lions, okay, that spark our minds, and he anchors the Christ energy, the Lion of Judah, to help us evolve. So that's like, I wanted to kind of, touch base on like, that this is what we're experiencing with this aspect of the envelope and also the inverted pentagram, is that we're having to go through.
I think this image is going to give me nightmares.
No, I like this image a lot, and the snake, or like even the serpent, especially with the split tail, the split fish tail. You'll see it. Lord of the Fishes has a split tail, and also Ursula on the Little Mermaid by Disney. You see that she's more of like an octopus squid, right? With this. So we come kind of from the depths of the sea, in our creation and evolution. I think also putting these elements together, and bringing the sun and all these constellations to, if you believe in star seeds, or just the DNA coming from, and the energy is definitely coming from these places. Nova, yeah. So that's all I had to say. It's a cool image. I like it.
Yeah, that was my idea. Like when I was thinking of the Lion's Gate, and that Neptune and Gemini are all a part of it, and Venus, which is the shell. She's in the shell, right? Even though it's the twins, it's still kind of like Venus. I put it all together to show that, and then the stone throne, which is the feminine, also, being anchored and bound to seat the Aldebaoth, which is this, and then you got an 8-pointed star behind it, the sun, the loop. So yeah, I know it's we're gonna have happier days, but right now, I mean, you can't always be happy. I'm sorry, happy's an illusion. Until we start waking ourselves up and realizing that we're being bought and sold for your comfort.
Again, that's that X, right? So if we were imagine a circle, and then if you twist it, you get that 8, which is infinity, and you get that X in the middle now. And what's weird with infinity, there's always that weird spot. So we might be in that weird spot where things can get a little gnarly. We're either going to go up or we're going to go back down in a loop. So we're trying to figure out the clues of how to not stay in this loop. And Nova touched on this, so did Matthew, but this 8, that's also this is the pattern that the sun makes in the sky, believe it or not. Is anybody talking? Because I cannot hear you. But
no,
okay,
cool. Just ready for the next slide.
All right. Just want to make sure. So I brought in.
I just saw balloons today. I didn't, not in the sky, but there's a place in the Pacific Northwest where I was raised. There was a balloon festival, but then I saw another one that was nearby, and I was like, it's actually here in September. I was like, no way! So I'm probably gonna go see it. So
Yeah,
it was funny that you put a balloon up.
there's a lot of balloon festivals, especially this time of year. There was one in northern Colorado. We have one here in the mountains. There's one in Arizona. There's a bunch, right? And like these beautiful balloons go up and they're in a little basket. And so I think it's kind of tied in. And this is, again, just a symbol. You see it in Wizard of Oz. He flies away, especially if you read or watch any of the other chapters of the story of Oz. They're always using a basket's big, but the wizard, right? He is always traveling around in a hot air balloon. And you'll see this time and time again. Like we used to have blimps and stuff with this basket. It's all about kind of taking you off to somewhere else, maybe the Emerald City, which is tied into the Chariot card of tarot. This is number 7. You'll see kind of like we got the lion or kitty cats, depending on who is riding the chariot. We've gone through like the different goddesses and gods will have something different being their horse. It could be peacocks, it could be kitty cats or lions. And here they are the Sphinx. And we're using the classic tarot per use just for the symbolism. And so the lions are leading the chariot. And this is Orion's story because he has his dogs, right? He has his dogs for his chariot. So in the spring, he's gone down over the horizon, which means at night we can't see him. And so he's been overhead all summer long. And so during the dog days of summer, we talked about this the last couple of weeks, the dog star is starting to come back up because he's riding his chariot back up. So now Sirius has been rising at the same time as the sun, and the sun has been conjunct with Jupiter in Leo. So there's all this like very fiery Leo energy, which is also the south node right now. So it's really interesting. Oh, sorry, my nose keeps itching. Whew. And then also Orion, my last thought, Orion lines up his belt with the pyramids of Giza, right? We've talked about this several times. And this is how you can tell maybe when time has, how long it's been since like some of these stars were aligned in Egypt because of the clues that they left us. But supposedly there were 2 Sphinx on either side of Orion, maybe not on the corners, maybe on the same side, because Orion has 2 dogs that lead him on his chariot. And Orion is this
It's
god,
probably buried.
right? That is in this card. This is Orion's card.
Yeah, I bet you anything it's buried. You have the wings here again. Is it reverbing again? I didn't do anything. I swear I have my headphones on, so but yeah, you can see that there's the wings here again. So that's the phoenix that it's talking about in Egypt. So that definitely has. Then you have I don't know. I can't remember what the top means. The top inside that symbol. But you have the stellar. The stellar cult is what his chariot has above him. Those are the stars. That's the stellar cult that we all need to be going back into, getting out of the solar cult and all the Pluto cults and Saturn cults. And really, we just need to go back to the stars and what they represent, not the planets.
Well, and when you brought up the stars, so in his chariot, he does have that canopy. A canopy. What does it look like? It looks like the Egyptian canopy of Nut, right? She's the cosmic Milky Way. So this time of year, in August in the Northern Hemisphere, the Milky Way is so bright and it's right overhead. during this dog days of summer when Orion starts to come back up. So it's all kind of, it's definitely correlated, and it's telling you when these stars are playing in the game of astrology up there. Like it's all the clues are always there. So that canopy is totally nut, which she is depicted, and I do have a picture of her coming up where she is the night sky.
It's super trippy. I remember people from like Norway or whatever, and they're like, we don't get to see the Milky Way. I was like, really? Wow, that's crazy. So they were really mesmerized by it.
Is that because of their position in the sky or something?
Position on Earth, that they are too north. They're
Huh.
super north. They can't see it.
That's interesting. Because I saw the Milky Way in Alaska, and that's pretty north. Anyway. Yeah, that'd be pretty weird to not see it. I didn't ever see it until I moved to New Mexico. I think it was the first, like in 2002, when I saw it for the first time. I was like, that exists? I thought that looks like a cloud or something. Nope, that's a galaxy.
Huh. Yeah. Yep. Beautiful Milky Way.
All right, I rearranged some stuff right here. So you see how Orion himself is holding up nut in the best parts, her boobies and her little woohoo.
Nuts
He's
gonna
holding
nut.
it up.
Vagina.
So this is correlated with Orion, and Jeb, of course, he's swimming underneath. But this is, I think, what that chariot canopy also represents. But this is the Milky Way, and the Egyptians paid a lot of attention, and Orion was their boy. But Orion is also associated with, could be associated with Osiris, which was, the embodiment of him on Earth, and such is the stories with like Brahma, Vishnu, Krishna, and the Christian God, the Father and the Son. That kind of correlation. But yeah, Orion holds up the Milky Way, and she is a pretty lady. Of course, she's the Milky Way night sky. The darkness, the night. So anyway, I'll get back to this other.
And you got the W there too, the M and the W, like right there in the middle. I
went
just caught that right before you changed it.
Yes.
Boom, big old M. That's cool.
And of course, we talked about the X, right? That was the first. So then it becomes the crossroads. So this whole story of us going through the zodiac, the 0 is the Fool, and in the Wizard of Oz, that's Dorothy. Of course, she's got a little dog, just like the Fool card, tarot, and her basket. And she comes from somewhere else to go into this journey, only to go to the Emerald City, which I think is your heart. Last week I had the Lion King with like a big emerald heart, because the heart chakra is green as you go up through the 7 chakras. So 7 is the chariot, because that's you riding through your own chakra zodiac. And the Fool is also Pee-wee. He's out there with hitchhiking, but he leaves and goes on the hero's journey as well, and just in a whole other scenario, but the same story. And so I brought out also the Wheel of Fortune here, because this is all tied in, where you have the 4 corners of this being Scorpio, Leo, and then also Taurus, and what am I doing here? Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. Yeah, go ahead, Matthew. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that Toto is like a totem, and you see that in the archetypes throughout a lot of stories, where there'll be a companion who's also on the journey, and kind of unwillingly, but they're still there. I mean, I don't think Toto decided to go get sucked up into a tornado, but yet there he is, staying a loyal companion like a good Leo should. Who knew? I wonder if he was a Leo. But there's always these totems too, and it's interesting how that plays out in these different stories. I actually saw this
serious.
interesting it's something kind of in the ballpark of that, and like the yellow brick road and such. It was this one guy that I follow, and he was talking about his favorite image ever taken, kind of asking the question out to the world. And his favorite image was this, they had prepared for the Pope to come through this town in Mexico. And so there are all these flowers and ornaments, and, they're preparing for him to come through. And a little dog, just like Toto, decides to walk through, and everybody started throwing the flowers and stuff at the dog instead of the Pope instead. And somebody grabbed a picture of it. So it was like, oh yeah, it's the perfect totem. We probably should have the parade for the dog instead.
That's
anyway.
great.
So it was like, this is great.
Yeah, well, that's serious. That was totally symbolic. The dog is like, our sister star, where all the information's coming from.
Yep, just taking the yellow brick road back home.
Well, and that yellow, why yellow? That to me is that spinal golden nugget fluid of our brain, right? That travels through our chakra
It
system.
represents the sun.
Yeah.
Which is you.
And together with the moon, it makes
Gold
that
is the sun.
serum. And so with the major arcanas of tarot, the Fool card is 0. And this is also the beginning of any of the pie pieces in the zodiac pie. 0 is also 29, which is interesting, which is 11 if you add, or add it up. But the major arcana of the wheel is X. It's 10. And so this is what you're striving for. And it's also known as roto. Roto is Latin for wheel. And roto, as you can see, is part of that compass that is on the wheel. And roto are the 4 pillars, like I said, of the Scorpio, Leo, Taurus, and Aquarius. So whenever you get like even this card, it means you're at a crossroads, and the wheel will always continue to turn. And so with all of like this new beginning and the basket, like this is symbolic, like we are kind of at this crossroads as a society. Go ahead. Sorry, my nose keeps itching. You know how that goes.
Oh, I just see a pizza. You go for a slice.
Are you hungry? I love pizza. I've been
or like the Rotary Club was another one that you see that's got that like round.
Why do you think it's called Rotary Club? I just said it's called Roto, R-O-T-A. So
it's in its own name.
Exactly. And so where that is R-T, see that? Rota, R-O-T-A. Rotary Club.
Round and around.
This Torah, the Torah, Terra, that's the mother.
It's also the 4 letters. So this would be YHBH. And so that is taking out the vowels again. Like it's almost, so that is in like the Latin ones, the ones that you can't see. The 4 letters inscribed on the wheel's face. And so the Torah is the roto, is the wheel, the Torah. And so at the same time, we're in a Toro electromagnetic field. It's like a donut is constantly going within itself, right? So if we're looking at a circle that's being kind of like a wheel, you got to like imagine it as being more of a donut. And that's where that weird little spot comes in. And we're almost to the equinox, right? Where everything is going to be, we're going to be more in a cross. Everything's going to be aligned before we go back to another X. So we're constantly going between X and cross. I say that a bunch of times. Right. Okay. So anybody have anything else to say here? All right, let's get on to the. So again, where do we see the infinity, that 8 in the 1? So already you go from the Fool to the Magician. You know, if you think about it, that's kind of crazy. But what does the Magician have? He has all the tools. He starts collecting tools. And so as above, so below. So that way he can bring that magic down, but gathering the tools. And one of them being a pentagram, right? So we are in that pentagram. It might be inverted. We were in, you know, you could also be in a cup. We were in a basket. And so like we're gathering all of our we gathered our tools, I guess. And so I brought all this up because the basket, once again, this is known as the Sumerian basket and also the Anunnaki basket. And this is like some of the oldest art we have, where the basket he's got in one hand, the left, so as the Magician, and then the pine cone in the right, where it's up here. And in some of the depictions, they're giving it to somebody else. So that, again, the pine cone, the pineal gland, and the higher chakras and elevation and more intellect and connection to the divine, all the things. So these are very similar. I didn't really look at it too much prior. So from the Fool to the 1, you're gathering all the tools. Yeah, go ahead.
You know what I
Well,
just noticed
he kind of
about this
reminds me
art,
of
out of all the times I've ever seen it, is that on the table there's the inscription of the 4 elements. There's the water, I think air with the bird.
You've
the
never seen
table
that
being
before?
earth. No, I did. I never looked at the symbol right there at the table.
Okay.
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
So the 4
yeah.
elements are right there.
And that's what the X is.
Yeah, he controls
Four
all of the
elements.
elements.
The 4 elements is the X.
Yeah, and then he's the ether. That's
Yeah.
what the Truvium man is. So he's the pentagram. It's a representation of the pentagram.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he can control all of the elements. He is above the mind, you know. That's why the figure 8 is above his head. He's of mind, and this is actually what all of this is about. All of the pineal gland is the spark of mind. This is literally the lords of the flame that came down and gave the humans the spark of mind, because the tree of life is who? Us. We are the tree of life. And so, the basket is, the zodiac, and like the carrier of, like she said, going in from the Wizard of Oz, the balloon coming down from outer space, into another consciousness. So 100%, this is what this is. It's just another storyline of like the spark of mind.
Well, and going back to the crossroads too, this the cosmic tree, where even in the Mayan text, the Popol Vuh, the X means the 4 conjunction roads. And so the 4 roads, the galactic center, the womb, and the heart of the Milky Way, forming an ecliptic crossing point. And so this is where that event horizon is, where we might be at that spot or close to it. Of course, all the civilizations think that, but maybe they're also gone.
We are, because we're now in an age of Aquarius, and that whole accumulation that I was talking about, that we needed, this whole initiation that we needed to go through to get to it, is how we're finally here at this point. Which slide are you on? I'm trying to figure out where we're at.
Oh, I'm on the magician card still, but I could change it.
Yeah, I see it. I'm just trying to find, because it's different on my.
Because you have the world.
I don't see it on the. Oh, there it is. Never mind.
So according to the crossroads, though, and the Mayan text, that there's 2 gates: the Orion gate, which is the silver gate, and Scorpio, which is the golden gate. And so, which is really interesting, because Scorpio is part of the zodiac wheel, and Orion is kind of like the chariot, kind of moving, kind of in his own little like pattern, right?
Well, you said it gold and silver.
Yep.
Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the moon and the sun.
So I would think that
So you
aligns
have,
too. If our moon is part of that Sirius star system at one point, or we came from there.
well,
Makes sense.
what the moon does is it takes a lot of the information from Sirius, so it doesn't blast the fuck out of us. And
Yes.
that's why we're not supposed to really worship the moon, or because that's why we go crazy, because it opens up that portal to the information that's coming in through Sirius, that it's taking the blunt force of it, and then it reflects it into the sun, and and we are, so that way it's absorbing. uh or is it the sun is reflecting into it? I can't remember which.
Well, it depends
But
on
no, so
the
so it's coming
phase
from
of the
Sirius to
moon.
the sun,
If you
and
think
then the
about
sun
it,
to the moon.
a new moon means that the moon is reflecting all of the sun's light, but a full moon means that the sun
Right.
is hitting the moon and then it's bouncing back to the earth.
Right. That's why this is like considered, the eclipse is, especially when it was over Egypt, it is a full eclipse there, I believe. And so, you're having this full information fledged, information of Sirius that is coming through. But you have the planets that are sitting there going do do do, doing their little dance around it. So, it's like a competition between the two, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I mean, we're always
totally.
going through that lunar cycle, so it just kind of depends on what time of the cycle we're in at the moment.
If anything, like magnetically, like rotates towards each other, it's constantly a battle of trying to find that balance of repel and attraction, right? And so I think that's kind of what we're dealing with in order to keep this thing alive a little bit. And the fourfold sphere is where that's a cosmic tree, but that's our dream time. So you could fold it within itself, or you can expand out. But again, the Milky Way and the pole star are connected. So this whole like power of four, you can really see it with eclipse season, and where our cosmic like anchors are, I guess, and also the compass that we're going through. So even in this picture, the Anunnaki, the Sumerian at least, has a watch, right? And you see that a lot in their depictions. They're keeping track of everything. Their watch, though, unless it's like an iPhone watch, that also has to do with the zodiac right there, I think. But anyway, maybe it's
I mean,
a
it's
really
got
nice
more
Rolex.
more dial or more points to it, but but I think it is the zodiac as well,
He's a horologist.
for sure. The horologist. Okay. So I saw your cards there, so I was like, oh, I'm going to put in the world card because it has the fixed cross on it, and these all represent, and you can see that the lion is in the right hand corner on the bottom, and so these all represent the four corners of the fixed zodiac cross, which is like a cardinal grand cross, but it's fixed. It's doesn't like to move much. It has Taurus, Aquarius, Leo, and Scorpio. I know the eagle is representative to Scorpio because it's what the higher mind is. And so they oppose each other. So Taurus opposes Scorpio and Leo opposes Aquarius. You can see that cross that she was just talking about. And she is Sophia. This is the Sophia in the inside of the. She's trapped in the Ouroboros. Yes, she's like, it's like the mirror. It's like looking at yourself when you look at this picture, that you are the world. It's literally telling you this is your reflection. And it's fixed, it's stationary, it's not going to move anywhere. And so this is actually going into, I'm going to go into Enoch here, where the dual nature of man and the spiritual, which is spiritual and physical, right? Because what we're looking at in this representation of the mirror is that spiritual, and then we are the physical. And so the center of that astronomic cross, which I was just talking about, also the 6-pointed star here to the left of that, the Solomon, square, is the upper angle of the upper triangle is the eagle. So what you can see, which is, remember, Scorpio. So, and then you have the lower left angle, which is the lion, and the right is the bull, Taurus. And then so this bull and the lion is the face of Enoch, Yaldabaoth, Sophia, the man, okay, and which is Aquarius. So these are the 4 animals of Ezekiel and in Revelations. It's in the Bible. So the 6-pointed star is the Adonai, and its representation is to the signia of the Messianic, Hermetic, Kabbalistic, Rosicrucian, symbolic philosophy of Manly P. Hall. Okay, they're in many different forms of practice. So the 4 races, leaving out the first, the Chahayas, or shadow, in the Son of Man, or which is also Enos or Enoch, okay, is the center. He stands between the two, the 4th and the 5th races, okay. So the 4th race was Lemuria, okay, in the 5th, or excuse me, no, sorry, we're in the 5th root race right now, which is Aryan, and then Atlantis is the 4th root race. So he represents those who he stands in between those two, okay. So it's like literally this transition from the spark of mind to just the mental mind dominating. And so it represents the secret wisdom of both. That's what he represents. And so these 4 animals of the Ezekiel and Revelation, the same double triangle, which is Isis as well. And you have Hindu, which is the Adonai, and so only 3 of the historical races are symbolized as the 3rd, which is the androgynous, or the Adonai. The 4th symbolizes the strong, powerful lion, and then the 5th is the Aryan, which is the most sacred symbol to this day, which is the bull or the cow in the world car. I thought this was really cool. I found this in the Theosophy information. So the Theosophy, it takes biblical information and also the tarot, and it helps break what these mean here. So Aquarius, is the man on the top left right hand corner, which is the lives upon the fixed cross, the consummation of experience in Leo, which is that first initiation, which is the opposite of that, and it's completed in Aquarius by the 3rd initiation. And so we're literally in the middle of, or like at the ending, or no, it's at the beginning and the ending of the spark of mind, where we're now going to be able to get on to, during this time, a lot of us have been able to get onto the fixed cross, which that's what this is, to anchor ourselves up and out onto the cardinal cross. And so this is why it was necessary to get us, because the spark of mind was just kind of like a dead, at the beginning, wasn't really there too much. It was just like, oh God, the straw man.
The Scarecrow.
You know, the Scarecrow. Yeah, the straw man also, right? So he, you know, we were like, now we're at the point where we're finally getting this initiation, and we're going to see astronomical like aspects to the sunset, you know, the sunset grill of Aquarius over the next 2,000 years, where several of us are going to be initiated at this time, as we've seen or we've experienced things that most have never been able to.
Oh no, we lost your mic.
Shit. I found out that I ended up doing what everybody does when they retire first. I did all the hanging out, discovery, travel, you know, all this other stuff. So that way I could find out who I am. But most people, they go out and work and then they retire and they're like, oh, I need to find who I am now. Well, I did it backwards. It's so that way I did my initiation first, and I think that's what we're supposed to be doing.
You know, it's funny
Did you have
because
something to
I've
say,
talked to
Matthew?
a lot of like older folks, and they've said that they wish they had done that because they've got all this money, but their bodies are falling apart, and they don't even want to go travel and do and find themselves. They just want to hang out at home and do nothing or very little.
I know. So give your money away to the people that want to do projects and want to create now. That because we fucking did all of that, and now we want to create. We're ready. And Miriah was like, well, that's what we're here to do. Is like we're now here to like lead everybody to like the end of, you know, of this era, and get, you know, bring them into the new era. Like that whole thing of like what the zodiac was talking about with these aspects in this solar eclipse day, is like we're literally like, what do we do? Well, the people that were travelers for half of their life, they need your money because they're ready to take your money and actually produce and make a new world that's going to be improved. So you got to stop being, you know, people that are falling apart and, you know, are gonna, you know, go to you know, need to go live on an island or something like that and not get massages for the rest of your life because you didn't like, you know. So I and it's interesting because, you know, AI might think that I wasn't backwards, but I had to deal with all my trauma or whatever, and I did that first to find who I was. But did the people that went to, you know, went through college, which I went through college too, but I went later. You know, I got a couple different, you know, degrees and whatever. Anyway, so but I still, after I graduated, I was like, fuck that. And I'm not, you know, I couldn't like find like a place for me. So I just said, fuck it. I'm not going to go into the workforce. I'm not supposed to. I don't know what to do here. So, because you know, every time I tried to make money, it would just disappear, or I wouldn't get it, and I was just like, oh, whatever, you know. I just accepted it. I was just like, I don't, you know, I didn't hate money. I didn't think I was poor, you know, or anything like that. I just was like, well, but you know, it came to me, and that's the thing is, once you like free yourself, everything's just free. Everything's free. It just starts to come to you. Which is really interesting, and that's why the whole concept of money is just so ridiculous. It doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't. It's not. It's good to like for trade and stuff, but you could just trade, you know, cotton balls for, you know, a pen if you need it. You don't need to, you know, go out and buy it. You know, you just go pick some cotton and like here's some charcoal, or you know, I don't know. I know that's kind of not really a good example, but go ahead.
Well, it's interesting too because it's like a mind state shift with money too. Like if you're not worshiping it like a god and just using it as a regular tool, like you would a hammer or a computer, and like there's and get the mind state of not being in like poverty or I don't have enough, if you can get out of that, like there's always enough around. Like if you seek it enough to just fulfill your means, and then it's available. But just put in a little bit of work, but it doesn't mean you have to work your ass off 90 hours a week. Like, you work what you need for your circumstances, and then you can spend the other time doing what you want with your life. There's balance to it. Because I remember like when I like moved out of my parents' place, I was broke. I had like nothing, and I don't know how I survived. But it was like once I got out of that fear state and like state of like I'm never gonna have enough, it's like opportunities arose, like you're saying, that were able to get me out of being totally broke, and things flow now. And it's like right whenever it's like I don't freak out about money, that's when things flow. But then when I start panicking about it, that's when things seem to slog down. And so it's like kind of counterintuitive in a weird way.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's a part of the initiation, is like learning how to be calm within all of the storm, and so those who are experienced with, freaking out and then going, ah, fuck it. Eventually just kind of going, whatever, just letting it go. And so that we've seen and experienced most things that people haven't had. And it's so interesting. Parents always say to me, I wish I wouldn't have had children. I was like, but I love my kids. I'm like, okay, I'm not judging. I agree. That's why I didn't have them, because I was able to not share my trauma. I was able to, I took the responsibility of discomfort in doing it myself, and going on that travel experience. So again, going back into this Aquarian cycle, which is coinciding with this 25,000 year cycle of Aquarius on the greater wheel as well. This is what is increasing the potency. Like we're literally having a huge potent way of like initiation. We're so people that are feeling like maybe they're a little bit lost and not sure what to do, you should literally start. If you are one of those rich people out there in the world, and you're too tired or whatever, you need to help the younger generations rebuild. Because they're ready. We're ready to build this place. We've been waiting for you guys to like chill the fuck out and like stop stealing all the money and like actually give us jobs, or give us an opportunity to build not a utopia, because a lot of these AI utopias are taking over now instead. And it's like us normal folk out here that are not insane with technology, we actually want to do something really great with it. So the fact that the cycle of the seventh ray of like the ceremony or order of magic is ruled by Uranus. So it's having only occurred like 6 times since the inception of the 5th root race. So when you combine all these forces, it will bring this manifestation forward. It's gonna happen. We are ready for initiation. Finally, people are getting. I think we're at the last of the barrel, at the bottom of like the racism and the hate and the opposition of masculine and feminine. I think we kind of just need to battle that out. And then because that's why we're kind of at this ending point, because there's this light of the 7th plane, of this physical plane that is coming up, that is because we're being initiated to really go, okay, what's really going on here? What's the major malfunction? What are the major points of these planetary crises that we're having? This coincidence of the 7th ray and Aquarius, where we're this occult knowledge and combined with meditation, because you're seeing, like you were talking about, like people that were retired and now broken. Well, they need to get into their meditations aspect, and go on a vacation, sell their house, get out of that old cycle and of being comfortable, because now you're so broken, you know, go do yoga for the rest of your fucking life, you know, and give your money away because it doesn't matter.
You know, people are having that point where they get a divorce at 60 and they're like, well, the kids are all gone, and they're like, I've got all this money, well, what can I do? And they go on, you know, they sell their house, they buy a van, and they go travel. You know, a lot of people are doing that. You know, they're starting to be like, okay, you know what, I can live a different life.
I mean, I personally don't like the whole travel van thing, just because I would want to be able to. I mean, if it was different with food and water sources, it would be better. But you would like you were, you know, Matthew, you ate at restaurants all the time, and it was unhealthy.
Yeah, you have to work with what you got.
Yeah, and so when you're traveling, you're going to be spending a lot of fucking money on. How much does it cost for one bag of groceries now? $100, $200? For fuck's sake! And you know, and it's shit food. You can't, you know. I mean, it would be great if you could like go travel to maybe a farm, local farms, you know, that are small, and go volunteer. Do that instead. You know, then you're food, and you know that's good for you, because travel in a van is not a good life, I don't think. I mean, it seems like it could be fun, but you could get really sick if you're always eating out. I'm just going to say that. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but
yeah, there's the
so
woofing
anyways,
program, which
yeah.
is exactly that. It's like volunteers that, you know, you can go out and you can work on organic farms, and it's basically a place where you can park your rig, whatever setup you got, or some have lodging. I mean, there are those setups that just kind of, you have to pursue it and you have to want to do it. You know, if you're like in my case, I was bound by being in a city, and cities didn't really have as many organic opportunities unless it was like an expensive grocery store. So, I mean, you just have to seek it out. If you want it, you'll find it.
Even then, it's not guaranteed. Like, they're spraying organic food with chemicals. They
Well, it's
are.
probably better than McDonald's, I'd
produce.
say. It's at least a step up.
Maybe a co-op. All right, maybe a co-op. But otherwise, they're spraying pesticides on the organic food in most grocery stores that are like Safeway or whatever. You know, these conglomerate, you know, corporations. Do you think that they're interested in giving us good food? No, they're not. You know, the co-ops are. You know, the smaller ones are a little better. Start opening up co-ops everywhere, you guys. You know, work with your local farmers. Um, so this is, you know, so all this knowledge of the Aquarian age is seen through our heart, which is what? The lion, right? The Leo king, that emerald city that Miriah was talking about. And that's chakra. And the cultist through the crown chakra is needed to develop. So the way of our mystical knowing, in the way we can move forward, and how it becomes, is this occultic heart. This energy starts to, you know, get anchored into the ground, but in a fixed way, not a pentagram way, okay, where it's inverted. Um, but you know, we can work with ourselves through this astrological eclipse where this anchor is happening, and we can step out of that and start to work with our mind on a higher level, and start to take this evolutionary turn into a spiral instead of a circle. And this has to do with Uranus. Going back to Uranus, this is Aquarius. Okay, so Aquarius is this consciousness is intelligent, which is the opposing Leo right now. Is this condition that is, you know, there's all this scientific stuff that is at one minute, that the intelligent mind that we can be using. So Neptune is also this mystical consciousness, which, you know, is a part of the trident here that you're seeing on the screen. So, we could really go forward and become a lot more advanced. So I thought that this was really interesting having the Enoch, and I put the Genesis uh, biblical text here that have to do with um, the years of showing you like the 187 years. That's just showing you like how many actually the races. It's talking about the races here and how they were we advanced over time. It's really interesting, actually. I was like really fascinated with this part of the book. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I wanted to kind of get you guys prepared for like in the future with that, because I'm going to go into more detail about that. Ready for the next one whenever you are. So toward the middle of like the Atlantean cycle, millions of years ago, the beam of the third ray of active intelligence became this brilliancy of like a potent, source of information. And this period over time started to, to find its way um, of like a nice cool creek embedded with rock and of this divine mist and cloud. We were talking about mist before, and this third ray is that possibility of this integrated type of character was for the first time that the mental mind actually grasped and said, "Oh, I'm actually flesh, and I know what's happening now." But now we're starting to become conscious, going, "Oh shit, everything is me. It's not just this body." So in Atlantean days, man had become so responsive to the planetary and solar influences that the door of initiation into the hierarchical experiences were opened and two signs were added. Okay, so they weren't there before in the zodiac. And these were Leo. They're higher correspondences of Leo and Virgo. So that would be Aquarius and Pisces, the polar opposites. And they became like these archetypes that started to form and add to the zodiac wheel, so that way the higher mind would start to set in, because all that other stuff is lower mind. Remember, it's below the horizon. It's in the dark. It makes sense. I was like, oh, this totally makes sense. Now we can actually start seeing ourselves, that reflection with Aquarius, and this is why Aquarius is so important. And so, humans started to respond to this heartbeat, of Leo through Aquarius, and this is how it became possible for the fixed cross function in the esoteric, not the exoteric, right? Because there's two different kinds of astrology. So the esoteric would be your Aquarian, and this is where Uranus is that higher octave of the sun. Okay, because it's opposing it, and so this is why it's innovative. This is why it's chaotic, it's unpredictable, because it's the higher mind that is letting the monad come in and advance, humans. So, you know but in its reversal, back in the day, it caused like blood and shed and battles, and it still is. This is the part of Leo and the Lords of the Dark Face, that in the Secret Doctrine, you guys heard of that book, I'm sure, right? From Blavatsky, um, where the Lords of Light contest, which is, in this moment, it's a constant persistence of where humans are capable of being disciples. And if you look at the zodiac, each one of those are disciples. Okay, the different growth spurts of discipleship. And so so this is how you can consciously mount yourself onto the fixed cross, is by working through the entire zodiac. And it just depends on where you are with your rising sign. We talked about this before, where your last life is your 11th house, where you were born, where what you were doing, that kind of thing, what you were spiritually, and that you need to master your second house. So, and that's how you can grab a hold of the fixed cross and get into this major initiation, especially in your 50s. Like when you start at your 40s, you're getting prepared for your initiation, and then once you're going through that initiation, no, you're going through that initiation process, and then you become the adept after that. So and that's when you can grab onto the major cross of the material versus the obstruction of sometimes it's called like fighting the battle of this conditioned sign of Scorpio, because Scorpio is really it's a part of that fixed area, and it really man Scorpios, they have a tough time, man. My mom was a Sagittarius Scorpio on the cusp, and she had such a difficult time. I feel sorry for people that are Scorpios. I don't want to be a Scorpio.
I have a master's degree in Scorpios. So
yeah, but mine was a
treat 'em
quick
okay.
learn.
I also have a PhD
I was
in
like,
narcissism.
yeah, I only met 2 of them, and it was quick. I was like, okay, I'm good. I think I learned real quick on what Scorpio is
Love
about.
to everybody,
It's
but
from
yeah.
my mom.
I attract Scorpios for some reason, because I'm Virgo. Come get me! Look at me.
They're
To
not
give
even
you
your
like so much
descendant.
more
That's what's
than I help
weird.
us little virgin. But no, and that would make sense of that. Are you done with this? I brought this up because it kind of goes along.
Before you get on,
yeah.
my laptop is gonna die, so I think I gotta go. I just wanted to say goodbye before it puts me here in just a second.
Bye. I know last time you got kaputzed. So thank you for coming and hanging out with
Yeah,
us.
love you guys. We'll see you guys again next week.
All right.
Bye, Matthew.
I'll call you later.
Happy Eclipse. So
Happy Eclipse.
I won't stay on this too long, but many depictions of the green lion eating the sun. And so it has a lot to do with what Nova was just talking about. This green energy too, with like the green man, the green king, all of these, they kind of go together. So with the lion eating the sun, this is like I was talking about, like the green lion, but it's dissolving the gold. The sun traditionally represents the gold, and the green, the green iron sulfate. You could get into all the alchemical different properties of these and how they like correlate together, and that's why a lot of the alchemists would start to make drawings like this. But to me, it's devouring, like most of the time it's devouring the sun and it's bleeding, and so it's like the line is green though, so it's the green man devouring the sun, and to me that is devouring the ego, the egg yolk, and I'll get into that. So it's a really popular alchemical picture of this lion eating the sun, and the lion or a dragon.
There's another alchemical thing that has to do with that, where it has to do with extracting minerals out of the ground, and the lion and the sun have something to do with it. It has to do with this old extraction that was done in Ireland to get phosphorus, if I remember correctly. It was some guy that I have to go back and see if I can find the video. I know I have it probably saved on Poppy's Food Project videos, but it's really cool.
Yeah, dissolving metals, attacking and dissolving metals. So I think it might have to do with iron sulfate. No, that's a good question. If anybody knows, let us know.
Yeah, I think so. I have to go back and think because I can't remember what the green and it's because it's gold. Gold and green is what?
Red, black, and gold, like Rastafarian.
I think
all
I have
day.
to go back and look at it. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
No
I know that
worries.
there is some symbolic stuff to it, but it is actually a chemical process.
Well, and because a lot of like even in the picture on the right, like you could go all day, the dragon, this flame, like this is the alchemical pictures, what they're doing. What alchemy is it's not mixing two things like chemistry to make something else or to have a reaction. It is creating a reaction to transform one thing from one form of element into another form of element. So basically from going from like solid to liquid, liquid to gas, gas to ether and back down. That's alchemy and the transformation of it. So, which is interesting too, the green lion and the jolly green giant all kind of have to do with the black egg, the cosmic egg. And this is kind of what we've been talking this whole time. So there's a golden egg. So humans, we've emerged apparently from egg, just like a reptile. And this has to do with the cosmic egg. You can talk about the 10 dimensional egg, which is the tree. And so with even the story of the Jolly Green Giant and the black egg. So apparently the first man, Adam or Orion or whoever, and this is like the Chinese mythology because they always use dragons, married the Dragon King's daughter. So this is kind of like Neptune always had his, like all these kings have daughters, of course, and their union gave rise to the Nephilim, the giants. So the Jolly Green Giant is a story, and all these stories are something to look at because there's some of our creation stories that are always tied into them. And so I thought that was really interesting because you brought up the green man, of course, and this is always like the oak king, the holly king, and then the green lion and the jolly green giant, tied in with the Nephilim and tied in with our creation, also with the DNA of the Nephilim, Netflix, maybe, perhaps, and this black egg. And so the black egg sits in silence, right? So if it's in the womb, it's a black egg. It sits in darkness until it's ready to bloom and start climbing. And that's even the vine. In the Jolly Green Giant, where there's a goose that lays the golden egg. So the golden egg is associated with the sun, and the black egg is associated more with the dragon, black moon, if that makes sense. Any of your thoughts on that, Nova?
I am actually looking up that chemical process. I apologize.
No, thank you. It'll probably drive me nuts too. I haven't looked at
because yeah, it's driving me nuts because I was like, holy shit. So you were thinking of the Jolly Green Giant. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen that in forever. I saw the slide, but I can't see it on my thing that I'm looking at, but I see it on the main screen. So basically you're associating it with the green man and the sun, and the lion, I'm assuming, is the green man or the Jolly Green Giant.
Yeah.
That's interesting because, like, in the context of the green line, it says that it's vitriol or philosophical mercury, but that's not what I was saying. It's a dissolving agent, which is with the nigredo blackening and putrefaction stages of alchemical work.
Solvent green. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh, geez, Soylent Green.
Soylent Green. Coming up, doesn't it? Speaking of McDonald's.
And then you have the green line devouring the sun, which metaphorically describes the vitriol dissolving the gold and purifying its base matter, and which is also considered like the philosopher's stone, your inner essence, right? So, God, I think that also that it is. I want to say that this place is in Ireland where their chemistry, the modern chemistry in Ireland, where they discovered phosphorus was a method similar to like what? I don't know if this is right. This is not it. This is not what I was thinking of. I gotta find it though. I'll find it eventually, and because I thought it was really fascinating. I thought it was phosphorus, but it was a mineral that they were producing that they needed during winter months, and it reminded me because you have to protect your aura, your auric field. You have to have the minerals in order for your auric field to reach that dragon state, the mother dragon. Otherwise you have the devouring dragon, right? The one that's the dark mother instead of the dragon mother, because I think the dragons are really powerful. That's why the Tigerian woman in Game of Thrones was killed. In the show, in the book, she wasn't killed. She was just like, she moved on, because she probably was like considered to be a little bit of the Sophia aspect of that too, where she was grown, she grew up and decided like, I don't need this part of the world anymore. I don't need to be the queen of everything. And that's what kind of Sophia is going through. It's like she had this complex, and then all of a sudden she's like, whoopsies, didn't mean to make a mistake here.
Well, that is kind of the story with Game of Thrones, where she was part of the dragon bloodline, and she resurrected her husband, right, who got injured.
Right.
She's black magic there, and he did not come back the same. Right. This is also the resurrection story then of Orion and Isis. Osiris and Isis. And so
even like the vampire Dracula and what's her name? Oh God, the one that
Queen Elizabeth,
he brings her back.
So that's what the black
Vlad the Impaler and his lover.
Yes. So that's sort of what this black egg represents too. It is the creation, but the dark side of it. And so even in Vala, it is Blake's mythos. The black egg in Vala, it appears to be the dark, ominous object, interpreted as the vessel containing a corrupted or fallen aspect of the divine. So where there's a golden egg and then a black egg. So some would interpret it as being
the Death Star,
but being like the sort of the corrupt spawn that also. So she had something growing inside her, at least in the book in Game of Thrones, where she knew that it wasn't it was something different. It was something dark, right? Because she had resurrected her husband, and she's of dragon blood. So she ended up doing more to like double kill him. Right?
Double
And so
kill.
she bore a dark dragon, and then she even had dragon eggs. So the reason
She'd
that
sacrifice
like
her
that guy
child.
put all those symbolism in those stories is because he pays attention to all this. So this is the Nephilim. So this would be right, the fallen angels and being part of creation. So that's what the black egg is. And I'm referring to Orion's door, by the way, for some of the black egg information. And the other book I'm referencing is Man and His Symbolism, of course, by Carl Jung. If anybody's asking. So he talks about the black egg being part of this creation story, but where, like some of our bloodline is Nephilim, especially if you're ancient bloodline. So anyway, that was kind of a ramble.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, this is what happened. Like this the Sophia creation created this dark egg for 100%. I totally get that. And the golden egg of Jack and the Beanstalk. You got to climb up to the higher frequencies of your heart chakra, and also I mean, you can think of the giants in the clouds as Aquarius, in a way. The giants in the clouds, because it's the higher frequency of the sun, like Uranus, like I was talking about, because that's where you get the golden egg is.
That's right. And so that's what the story is, where the Watchers, or even Hanuman in the Hindu stories, he's like the monkey man, that he's also like the same story where he was hatched from a stone egg, impregnated by the sky stars. So so you'll see a lot of stone eggs everywhere, or check eggs. These are 10-dimensional, and it's all based off of like the primordial egg. But specifically, like if it's black egg, Hanuman, it's it's the mixing of the genes, the DNA, or we've been crossbreeding on here. We know that. Yeah, super interesting. Even John D talks about the egg too, the metaphoric egg and the 4 elements of the Zoaz, what we were talking about. And the scarab beetle brings along a spiral path. And that spiral path is also the yellow brick road, right? It starts in the spiral, follow the yellow brick road, all the way to the Emerald City.
Makes sense.
Until, they destroy the Emerald City and destroy the Yellow Brick Road and take Dorothy and try to make her forget that ever happened. Yeah, that glorious time. So we've seen this before with possibly with our last reset, especially on this continent, where all of a sudden a bunch of insane asylums go up, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of orphanages, because if you resisted the new world, they will put you away. We live in a track, trace, database reality. So I see these cycles. We're looking at the patterns, and here we go again. We can maybe stop it this time.
I found it. So, bog iron extraction. That's what that the green lion. This guy, I remember him going over. He's like, the green lion is the extraction, of saltpeter or sulfur from mineral springs, and because the green lion eating the moon, because there's one that eats the moon, is the alchemical illustration. Symbolizes the vitriol sulfuric acid. Okay, so that's where I was getting confused. In corrosive solvent during dissolving silver, the moon. Okay, so but the process that I was thinking of is called bog iron extraction. It's where they would, in Scandinavia and Scotland, this iron ore was scarce, and so what iron rich groundwaters would seep into these bogs and streams, and with the water hits the oxygenated surface water of the stream or pond, and it dissolves the iron and precipitates the rusty sludge of like this iron ore bog and at the bottom or along the banks. And so this was the survival technique for them, because what it would do for the early Irish communities to make tools and weapons with without deep mining. And so they would dredge this rusty sediment from the stream bed and dry it and smelt it into a small furnace. Pretty freaking cool that they figured it out. And so, yeah, it's this saltpeter, which is potassium nitrate, and they'd harvest from the damp soil of caves or stream banks in Ireland for making gunpowder as well. And then sulfur, which sometimes there was the yellow waters or mineral springs, but less common for the extraction of Ireland compared to bog iron. I believe it's bog iron. So it's interesting. So you can look at it in two different ways. So the green lion could be interpreted as the ascetic bog water. I'll have to go and see if I can. I'm pretty sure I saved the video. I'll go back into it. So sorry about that. I was just excited to find it.
No, please always do that, because that's how we like find out more stuff and have some like no, because I was like I couldn't remember what it was either, and it is all has to do with like these reactions. There's like clues.
Yeah, alchemically.
There's clues. So if they use certain depictions of something like a green lion eating the sun, people can kind of maybe figure it out, because through chemical processes and like when a meteor, for instance, comes into our atmosphere, we're able to tell what it's made of primarily from what color it's burning. So if it's burning green, it's iron. It's all adding up, isn't it? So even when the Wicked Witch of the West, she's all green and she like comes in and out, she's got green plasma or plermo type of plutonian mist that brings her in and out. It's very interesting. Because with the even her being the Wicked Witch of the West, right? That's also the directions of the cardinal directions, because we are tapped into the North Star. So we will always be going like that. The directions of the east and west go on forever. And I feel that's like more of the equator, and that's more of the Satan's playground. Of course, I'm going off topic here a little bit. My whole point of this, though, too, is anybody going into this, even the clouds, to go find the golden goose, you're leaving kind of this plane, and you're going into another reality. And so with this whole thing of the primordial egg, supposedly it cracked and causing the two polarities that we have like right now in our existence, causing two different realities. I believe the fourth and the sixth dimension happening simultaneously in a 10-dimensional egg world that we live in. And whether it be black or gold, does it mean like, I mean, there's different bloodlines and stuff, like it's just kind of perception as well. And if you're ruled by the moon or the sun here, so it's not really like good or bad. I just want to like make that clear. It's not necessarily good or bad. But these are the symbols that are associated with the eggs, and sometimes it's related to the golden egg, the primordial queen. All these stories really have a lot in common, so that's why we keep bringing them up. You know. And it's also the light and the dark and the yin and yang. So with that, like the evil twin, we could really have we live in that duality of polarity. We need to have something else.
I guess to get out of it, anyways, to get out of the dark egg, you gotta make the dark egg, which makes to me it doesn't make sense, but I don't know. That's just me.
That's exactly it, right? Crazy. This is the song that doesn't end.
Yes. Which slide are we on? Okay, here we are. Okay, so you guys see the W and the M?
Yes.
Put together. This is what I was talking about. But the M, you can't see it because it didn't do it like I wanted it to do it. Darn you, AI! But it was the closest. So, but you can see that the W has the point at the top, and it's like the arrow. So, how do you manifest the physical desire? So we're at the end of like the eclipse here. This is it, but it's going on for the next 6 months. So your intention today, I'd be very very precise as far as like what is it that you want to do, but there's some tricks to it. So during these manifestations of the eclipse, make a list of 7 things that you want to manifest in your reality. If you want to make them work, you have to be very reasonable. You can't just be like, I want to have an ice cream that is going to fall from the sky with a pink elephant. That's obviously not going to happen, but choose what you really desire. I mean, it could, like, I guess, you could get like a toy pink elephant, somehow float into your yard with the ice cream cone that it has in its trunk, but it's not a real ice cream cone. That's a possibility. So you got to be very specific, right? Or in at least or otherwise you're going to get something that you're not going to want or that you're not going to desire. So what you want to do is gather this list and work with each one of these things. The first thing on the list, for example, like say that you want a new vehicle, and you want to say it out loud. I want a certain radius for a specific price over this period of time, and it describes the item that you want and the price and the space. But you don't want to waste any kind of time on any thoughts of how you're going to get it. Okay, so you just let that go. The part here is that you must not think ever in a specific person or group that could provide for you, so you would be manipulating others. Okay, so you just literally, describe the shape of it, the color, what it feels like, whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. And then the third part of this is that do you really, if you really want it, do you really want this item? Like, do I really want to have my ex back, for example? Let's say that you are like, oh, I just, how this is a very famous thing. Oh, I miss them. I just want them back. Do you really? Or is that just like the fear behind it, So really ask if that's something you want, or if you want a new job. for example. So if you are already there, and you think about it, because otherwise, this starts to um, go into the mind, and it sits in there, and it's getting ready to produce it. I've actually done this before several times, and I've gotten things that I didn't thought I wanted, but then I got it, and I was like, oh, it's actually the same, but it's not changing for what I want it to be, because what I wanted it to be was the manipulation part, but but it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but if that makes any sense. So the things that you want to believe, but you really do, but really do not really matter, but you want to be careful, because if you really do not want any of these things, leave it alone, move on. So you have to really determine that. So number 4 is you visualize, that, like the woman, right? The W is upward. So you're visualizing, this is the W, and the masculine is the one that pins it down into the earth. Okay, so this is the masculine and feminine. So, but you have to have both, or otherwise you're missing out on part of it. You have to visualize, that's up in the air. That's the eagle. That's Aquarius, right? Scorpio and ego on the fixed cross. And then you visualize it in front of you, in front of your head, above your eyes, and then print it out like a screen. Where the medulla is, right? Where the spine enters the skull. Remember, this visualization is not specific to any individual or a specific place, that will help you get what you want. So again, you're not manipulating reality. So you repeat this process until you have created a list of 7 things you really desire. Then you forget about it, and you deposit the list in a safe place, and then you later on check it regularly to see if you actually are things on the list you've actually manifested. And then whenever something is manifested, you take that off the list and think of something else to replace it. So you always want to keep 7 things on your list. Always. So, because of, these cycles of these, the lunar nodes, these are the phases that, we can tap into. And the moon herself, will tell you, like, this is the alchemical process, because she'll filter through what it is that you desire through the sun, with the sun, but she's confused sometimes because she's a little lunatic, right? So you have to, like, really, let go of the manipulation aspect. So the moon, if she could talk, she would say that she's a sieve to the surface of the earth and all the other energies that are stellar and planetary and solar. And then from an astronomical point of view, um, that she in no way uh, can protect the entire surface of the planet of all these influences. So, the helly winds, right? The Holy Ghost, the solar winds, they pick up and they create, within 28 days, and and she travels around the earth. And so you have to really think about these things when you are wanting to create the fire, the Holy Spirit, and don't go on the side of lunacy, which is the manipulation part. And I'm done with that. So when you're done making this list, and you gather the list, excuse me, I gotta drink some water. I've been having a tickle in my throat all day. I
I
apologize.
just drank some water too. It's like, good call.
Phew.
Everybody, drink some water.
So
Something.
what you're looking at is a portal. A portal in Leo right now with this eclipse. And so this list that I was just talking about, and the moon, and how she's literally opening up a gateway for you to manifest. Now this is a partial gateway, but this is a collective one because of why? Well, Pluto, remember at the beginning, Pluto was in the 12th house in Aquarius.
We're also in the
and
gateway called Lionsgate. This was like closing it up, babies. Like, so with Sirius coming up, Jupiter, all in the South Node, all in Leo. Blocking out.
yeah,
The
and
moon
so it's,
comes by and blocks
we're
out
ready
that
for
sun.
yeah, and it's so there's no reflection happening, so we have the opportunity to, like, really make a difference, but it's also an opportunity to let things in that we do not want.
Like a
So
black mirror or a black
don't
hole.
manipulate. Even
Like a
like the
black-
center of a poppy is like a black hole or a flower, right? Like if you look at the poppy flower on the bottom of the corner,
Yeah.
it's it's literally the sun and the moon. It's the solar eclipse. If you didn't notice
it
that.
totally is. Yeah.
That's why the poppy is like a it itself is a portal. And that's why you got to be careful with doing drugs, because those are portals. Like your next slide here, this looks like a freaking portal. Matter sucked over the funnel of a black hole.
So this comes from The Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions book. Is one of my references, but I took these pictures from that. So this is coming into singularity, which you probably have been hearing a lot about or not. So the singularity is the point of no return. Of course, really the point of no return is the event horizon where we're coming into. So what does this mean? Like, maybe all this stuff leads to the fact that we're going towards one of these horizons where we're going to start transforming and going from the old universe to the new universe. And what's the difference between a black hole and a white hole? Well, black hole is that we're going in. Of course.
Yeah.
I feel like
Makes sense.
or we could be coming out, but it doesn't feel like we're coming out of nothing, does it?
I think we're going in.
Yeah.
It's
It
that
feels
it's
like
that
we've been
loop.
in it.
It's like it's the cross at the loop of
Excuse
the
me.
figure eight, where we're jumping into the next, and then the doors closing behind us. Like that's what the middle aspect of this black hole and the white hole, the old universe, new universe. It makes sense to me. That's what the figure eight totally has.
Yes. And so that's kind of what I was trying to describe too with like that figure eight. There's that weird part, right? Where you have to transform to the other side. And just like a sand hourglass, right? You start with a bunch of sand, it starts moving slowly, but then it starts even speeding up, and eventually you have to like come to a single piece of grain to go down through the other side. And I think that has something to do with the dimensions, but also Andronima. Maybe perhaps we go back and forth. I mean, and who really, really knows?
Man, an hourglass in itself is just magical. Like, how many grains of sand is inside of an hourglass, and how did they measure it? Like, to make sure that it was per grain of sand. That's so interesting.
Well, there are people there counting.
I know.
Little time
Midgets.
well, and maybe those are like the architects.
No, we got brownies.
DMT
brownies that are doing
elves. But so this is, I believe, what we're talking about with the singularity. I believe we're at the event horizon somewhere. And according to Barbara Handclown, all her writings and her research and many others, where 2012 was kind of that turning point, because that is along Mayan calendar. And so where everyone thought that there was going to be something, everyone had expectations, right? But nobody really knew what that meant. And so I believe that's when we started maybe kind of going into this event horizon, into this photon band. And the more and more we go into Age of Aquarius, I believe we must. What happens when we go out the other side? Maybe, like, maybe we're in that singularity where we don't have to like feel it, but I think we're feeling it. The earth and the sun are on fire right now. Volcanoes are erupting. There's earthquakes beyond the magnitude we've ever seen before in our lifetimes. And so there is that torque that we've been talking about. And so we're in there. We're in that like point of no return. And if some people can't go with us. And that literally means some people are dying because they can't keep up with the frequency. And I think the timelines are also splitting, if they haven't already, more and more and more. And every time we have these astronomical events, it splits more and more and more. So follow the white rabbit out the hole, the black hole. We're in a black hole. So that's also a point that I'd like to make out with. And with art, you can do that. And with AI, you can do that. But you can also just do it with math, maybe with your mind, where with the golden ratio, it will always be turtles all the way up and turtles all the way down if we stay in that geometry, because you can look in someone's eye and see another galaxy and go into another galaxy. You can constantly go into more black holes and white holes. You can just constantly like keep going. And that's what infinity kind of is. And it might keep us there forever. It's sort of like a constant DMT trip where everything is falling in and out of it. And if that's the reality we want, but is that the reality we need to keep? I don't know. That was kind of deep and long, but we're talking about singularity here in black holes and white holes. So we might as well go down and deep into it because we're in it.
Well, I'm excited. I'm ready to get out on the other side. Let's go. Let's
Break
go.
on through to the other side.
Yeah.
But it might hurt us physically, we
didn't have the anti-gravity thing that they said was going to happen today, so we're still alive. That was supposed to happen today.
Unless it did and we didn't know.
Unless it did and it didn't do anything because maybe gravity isn't what we thought it was.
But this eclipse, I think, might be stamping something interesting. So just like at the same time, don't live in fear. Like let that live from the heart chakra, but like be a leader, but authentically and from the heart, not out of ego. Don't let the machine take over. And Terminator, it's here. That's why the kids in the 90s, we were telling y'all. We were telling y'all. But again, is that programming? But the singularity, it's I try not to bring it even down to what the humans and the lords down here are doing, but what our solar system is doing, because we are connected to it. And that's what that whole, we're in this egg. So together we're in I've heard a lot of people explain it lately as we're in our own black hole. We're in this bubble of something, right?
Well, that's how you can manifest and things just fall into matter. Like that makes sense because look at what's happening with this. It's matter sucked in to the horizon and then it funnels into the black hole and then it falls out the other side and bam, it's in your reality because you brought it there. That's why I was talking about, like, this is what happens. This is where babies come from, right? They come from your thought process and they're pulled out of somewhere else and plopped right into matter, into your reality. I'm just like, that's why it's like, oh, you're actually creating that whole casting spell stuff, you guys, when you have babies. It's weird. It's weird.
So even the middle of Visca Pisces, what do you see? You see that funnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's kind of what reality is. Even if you, I don't know, are able to see, maybe that's what, like Alex Gray, a lot of his DMT or psychedelic art, you'll see those funnels, right? You're
Oh yeah,
down,
yeah.
and that is the
I have 2 of them in my living room.
And it's bringing all those realities together. What your eye see and your third eye sees, it's all part of it. So
well, everybody, you've been listening to Poppy's Food Project. We get together every Wednesday. We've been doing like 3-hour like shows for the last 3 episodes, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so tired right now. I'm starting to fade, but it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Miriah and Matthew, that came in to hang out with us and all the audience today. This concludes the Lionsgate Eclipse season for now. We got another eclipse coming up, but this is the solar one. So we'll be looking forward to that one. I don't know where it is. I didn't get that far into it. Miriah might know. She probably does.
yes, you know where the notes are. You know where the notes are. And thank you to 6 streaming on TNP as well. So
that's a new one.
AM Wake Up and on TNP. So thank you, 6, and all the listeners. And there's some fun chats on either side. So just thank you everybody for listening, and for our producers.
Is there 2 sides? I didn't even know there's 2 sides. Oh yeah, because there's TNP on the other. Oh shit, I forgot. So I have to open up 2 of them now. Oh my goodness, that's gonna be. I already have hard time like paying attention to one thing. Jeez.
Maybe one of us can man one and one the other. Well, but so thank you for adding us to that. And 6 is trying to get a lot of different types of flavor on his awesome channel, and he's
and we're gonna have to put that up on our prompts. I forgot about, like, I didn't forget about it until like I saw him text me, and then I forgot about it, and then at the end I was like, oh shit, and then I was like, I don't have time to put on the freaking prompt. So I will do it next week. Make sure that TNP is in there. Thank you guys. I was so engulfed with this, cute little doggy and his star, the dog star, and my little black hole of like information. So thank you guys. We'll see you next week, Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Have a great solar eclipse. Let's manifest a new reality that we actually fucking want, and rock on. Peace, love, and heavy metal, everybody. Much love.
Thank you. Have a great night.